is in fact something you did for me. What are we learning? That even if you're debating the most harsh enemy, even if you're standing up against what you would consider the embodiment of evil, even they have done something good and you have to acknowledge it. You can't ignore it. You can't dismiss it. Nobody's completely evil or completely good. As bad as Fir'aun is, there's something he did good. And it has to be acknowledged. And you can't dismiss it. So the first thing in the case of Ibrahim or in the case of Nuh or Musa alayhi salam rather, is the acknowledgement of the good even in the one you're opposing. This is extremely difficult, especially when you're angry. Especially when you think you're speaking on behalf of Islam or truth or justice. The one you're opposing, you see nothing in front of you except an enemy. You want to crush them in any way you can. And actually giving them even some bit of appreciation might feel like, oh my God, I'm giving them ammunition. They might be empowered. They might win this argument because I gave in a little bit. No. When it comes to a good that comes to you, even if it comes from the enemy of Islam, you acknowledge it. Now think about this as a principle in life. I should and you should. There are people we have disagreements with all the time. Family has disagreements. Husband and wife have disagreement. Parents and children have disagreement. Family has disagreements. Friends have disagreements. And when we have these disagreements, all we remember are the bad of the people we're disagreeing with. The only stories, you remember what you said this? Remember when you said this? Remember when you did this? Remember when you did that? And you make a list of all the bad. If Musa alayhi salam can even see good in Fir'aun, that's Fir'aun. This is your family. This is your brother. This is your wife. This is your child. You could see good in them. And it's not a defeat if you acknowledge it. It's not humiliating for you to acknowledge it. It's evil of you to dismiss it, to not appreciate it, even when you're engaged in argument. That's the principle we're being taught here. I have to speak the truth. Yes, you do. But you can't speak that truth at the expense of the good. This is not something that you dismiss. You're not allowed to. And then let's turn to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, because that's the next case, right? It's Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he's not going to bring up, I'm not asking you for money. Because who was he talking to? He was not just talking to his nation, he was also talking to his father. And his father builds idols. His father is the source of shirk in that society. His father is the first one to kick him out. His father has done all of these things. And yet, he's not going to be obnoxious and turn to his dad and say, I'm not asking you for money, you know. Even though Ibrahim alayhi salam at that point may be independent. He's ready to leave the house. He's not going to turn around and say, I don't need your money anymore. Because he's not going to dismiss everything his father has done for him up until now. You can't do that. You can't let your anger and even your stance for the sake of Allah, you cannot let that get you to the point where you say something that will hurt the feelings of the other. Because you should speak the truth, but you shouldn't be looking to hurt. Because sometimes we say things in argument, the only point of it is to hurt someone. It's the only reason you're saying it. There's actually no other reason. Like, you hurt me, now I'm going to find some way of hurting you. And this is, in the first case, it was the acknowledgement of good. In the second case, which may even be harder for us, acknowledging good might, okay, I'll acknowledge some of your good, but then I'm going to slap you around after that. Then I'm going to throw some words at you that will take all of that acknowledgement away. By the way, you're a good person, but you are also shaitan. You're also shaitan. That's what we do. We'll acknowledge the good and then start the beat down. What are we learning from Ibrahim alayhi salam? Don't hold your tongue back. Don't say something you know will hurt. Don't be dismissive. Don't be dismissive of the good someone has done to you. Hold back from it. These are such golden principles of discourse. In the most intense, in the most aggressive situations in the Quran, this entire surah is debates. All of it. One prophet debating his people, another debating his people, another debating his people, and whatever conflicts we have in our personal lives, there's no comparison between the prophets and their people and the conflicts those were. There's no comparison. And if they can stick to these principles in that conflict, then there's no excuse for you and me. Yes, we fail. Yes, I make mistakes. I get angry and I say things I regret later. But you know what? This is what this book is for. This book is to bring us back to this guidance, these principles. These people lived by principles. They had a code in how they engaged. And that's not just something for nations that came a long time ago and now they're gone. It's just fun history lessons. These are things we have to live by today. These are things you have to live by, I have to live by. There are going to be people that you talk to, that you engage in conversation with, and they will say things that hurt you. They'll say things that make you really upset. It boils your blood, boy, oh. And then you have things, you immediately come back with a response. Oh yeah, you hurt me, let me show you what hurt is. رُبَّ قَوْلٍ أَشَدُّ مِنْ صَوْلٍ, the Arab says. He says maybe sometimes words can give you a beat down more than an actual beat down. Words can hurt more than a beating. So you think of a response. You think of how you're going to retaliate. You're going to hurt right back. But at that point, just remember Ibrahim alayhi salam. At that point, just remember that, Fir'aun tried to press every button he could. He tried to provoke Musa alayhi salam in every way he could. Every way he could. But Musa alayhi salam kept his cool. Did not engage. Did not allow that to become a conversation. He did not say, what do you mean I'm not grateful? What do you mean I'm denying? I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but I mean you are a pretty bad guy. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. He called him insane. He called him a liar. He called him a magician. He called him all kinds of names. But he kept his cool. What are we learning? People, that when you talk to someone and it's a conflict, when you're engaged in a conversation and somebody's angry, then they're going to say things. They're going to say things that are not true. They're going to say things that are not accurate. They're going to say things in the heat of the moment just to get you fired up. Because they're hurt, so they want to make sure you're hurt. And you have to display your calm. You have to hold yourself back. Wallahi, it is those times. It is those times when the word of Allah comes to life in our life. It's fine to have the argument with your wife, your husband. It's fine to have the argument with your kids, yell and scream, and then come early to Jum'ah and recite Surah Al-Shu'ara on your own with proper tajweed. That's not what this book came for. We made this relationship with this Quran artificial. This book came to guide you and me. This book came to give you wisdom. Give me wisdom so I can live properly, so I can fix my relationships, so I can conduct myself in a way that is pleasing to Allah, that can save me from trouble. Allah did not give us these guidelines because they're expected of angels. This is possible for human beings. It's doable. Yes, we will fall. We will make mistakes. I will and you will. There's no doubt about it. Allah did not give this book to angels. He gave it to human beings. He knows, Allah ya'lamu man khalaq. Doesn't He know who He created? He knows what He made. We will fall. But you know what? This book is there to pick us up again. This book is there to fix us again, to revive us again, to restore joy in us again. That's what it's there for. ذَلِكَ تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. And even when the ahkam come, Allah says this is there to lighten your burden. You will think when the hukam, the governance, the law from Allah comes, it should be a burden on you. And Allah describes it as تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Lightening for you. It takes your load off. The purpose of Allah's instruction is to take your load off. Well, the further we get from this wisdom, this guidance in our lives, the heavier our own life becomes, the more miserable we become. This is why when people come close to the book of Allah, Allah says, فَبِذَلِكَ فَلْيَفْرَحُوا هُوَ خَيْرٌ مِّمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. Because of that, they should be overjoyed. Because of the book of Allah, they should be overjoyed. It is better than anything else that they're gathering. Yes, you and I will engage in some pretty intense conversations, to say the least. There are going to be arguments in our families. There are going to be arguments among friends. There's going to be arguments in business. Comes with life. Part of the territory. I mean, the Quran talks about some of the greatest people that ever lived, doesn't it? It talks about prophets. And how many prophets had family problems? Well, Yaqub alayhi salam had no family problems. Yusuf alayhi salam had no family problems. Nuh alayhi salam had no family problems. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi salam didn't have uncle problems. He didn't have. There was never any problem between him and the mother of the believers. They have problems or no? Subhanallah. Allah is telling us these narratives because Allah did not tell us about perfect, lives where everything was glossy and, and good like a brochure, everybody smiling and happy and there are no issues. No. Allah told us the stories of these prophets because they dealt with some of the toughest issues. Because if they can handle it, they will become a role model for you to how to handle it. For me, how to handle it. That's why these stories are there. That's why these prophets are talked about, alayhimus salam. So may Allah Azza wa Jal make you and me better in the ethics, the morals, the principles with which we engage even when we disagree. May Allah Azza wa Jal bring unity and harmony in our families. May Allah Azza wa Jal remove the ill feeling